Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Double A Team podcast live stream. I'm your host, Stephen Nagishi from the fan-sided beargoggleson.com. With me, as always, is my co-host and associate editor of the sports blog, awful announcing, it's Ken Fang. Ken, how are you?
Good. How are you, Stephen? Good to be with you. This weekend I was in Canada, so I didn't see much sports going on, but
Mhm.
did read up on a lot of things. So I'll do my best to discuss things with you. But we'll also have our Super Bowl picks for
Mhm.
the Super Bowl 58, which is coming up, of course, this Sunday. And we'll talk a lot about that. Roger Goodell had his news conference, by the way.
Right.
Um, we can discuss that a little bit as well. He had his news conference that was invitation only, and he held it on the Monday, just an hour before the Super Bowl media scrum that is taking place as we speak right now in Las Vegas. I believe it's taking place in Allegiant Stadium. So both the Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers are being asked questions. So obviously, it's a great for anything that is discussed press conference to get squashed by anything that's coming out of media day. But anyway, let's get into it, Stephen. And always good to be on with you.
I apologize there, Ken. Battling a little bit of allergies over the weekend, so I'm going to try and minimize the noise as much as possible. But indeed, let's start talking about the Super Bowl 58. It is finally here. It was kind of weird not being able to watch the football on Sundays for the first time in a while. I'm sure it was a weird Sunday for many people, having not figuring out what they wanted to do. But hopefully, it was a very productive one. And now it is finally here. Super Bowl 58. Both teams have arrived in Las Vegas, and it's kind of shocking that Las Vegas is now the host of the Super Bowl. 10, 15 years ago, I don't think nobody would have imagined Las Vegas as a destination for not only, forget Super Bowl, any pro sports. At that time, because of the gambling, sports betting implications, which is a very, very negative connotation that is associated with mobs or point shaving, fixing, and all that kind of stuff. But we are no longer in a society that not only we've always embraced gambling, and Las Vegas is, of course, the gambling capital of the world, at least in this country. But we have multiple sports teams, starting with the Vegas Golden Knights, and then the Las Vegas Aces of WNBA that has been won multiple WNBA titles. Vegas Golden Knights won the NHL Stanley Cup last year, and the Las Vegas Raiders moved from Oakland to Las Vegas a couple of years ago, and now they have a brand new Allegiant Stadium, which is going to be hosting Super Bowl. And Oakland A's, at least presumably, will be moving to Las Vegas in a couple of years. That is still, there are hurdles remaining, but and there are talks of maybe adding NBA teams in Las Vegas. So it's kind of stunning how much the city and the professional sports leagues have kind of embraced having not only teams in Las Vegas, but also holding a massive sporting event of this magnitude.
Yeah, it's interesting how that happened, Stephen. And it happened very quickly. It all happened almost right after the Supreme Court legalized sports gambling. And then right after that, the Las Vegas was embraced, as you mentioned, as a sports destination. We saw it basically with the colleges, with a lot of the college basketball tournaments, like the Pac-12 and a lot of the West Coast Conference. A lot of the college conferences hold their tournaments now in Las Vegas. But we have to remember, back in 2007, the NBA tried as an experiment having the All-Star game in Las Vegas. And I remember being in Las Vegas about a month before the NBA All-Star game was to be held there. I went to the World of Concrete convention a month before that it was happening, and everyone was wondering if this is successful. Would we ever see a pro sports franchise in Las Vegas? Which one would it be? Would it be the NBA? And it's interesting how it all happened very quickly, Steven. I never thought that we would see a Super Bowl. I know that thinking it would be great to have one there, but now we have one there. It's going to be interesting to see how the city holds up to it. They just had the F1, the Formula One.
Oh yes, that's true. That's true.
And it was held at a time that wasn't necessarily conducive for the rest of the country and around the world. It was held at 10, I believe. It was held at 10 o'clock local time, which was basically 1 o'clock on the East Coast and 6 a.m. in the UK and in lots of Europe. So that's not going to happen with the Super Bowl. Super Bowl, of course, is going to be at 6 o'clock at night in the East Coast, 3 o'clock in the Pacific time. I think Vegas, with the fact that they've had conventions in the past and they've had all types of big events, I think they'll be able to handle this. There's talk about that the Vegas is going to be in the permanent rotation if things go well. So let's see how they handle it this week. They have the airport, they have the infrastructure, they have the hotels, definitely. So we'll see what happens, and especially as you see in the banner there that Stephen made. They have professional sports have embraced gambling. However, to keep the fact that to make sure that there's no distractions, both the Chiefs and the 49ers are staying in hotels way outside the city, about 30 minutes away, about 20 to 30 minutes away, so they won't have any distractions going to the Strip. And both the networks and NFL, their employees are been highly discouraged from gambling. So we'll see how this happens and see how it goes, and we'll see how what comes from this, and if Las Vegas will be added to the permanent NFL Super Bowl rotation from here on in.
Yeah, absolutely. Excuse me. You mentioned F1 late last year, and that event kind of drew a lot of criticism in terms of the circuit courses, how the local restaurants and venues were kind of shut out, and the price gouging of F1 and Super Bowl is no exception. It's gotten way more and more expensive. And the games nowadays, it seems as is geared towards tech bros or the celebrities and the corporate sponsors and entities more so than ever. And for an average Joes like you and I to even fathom the idea of watching Super Bowl in person, it's just ridiculous. And it's the cost of ticket is one thing, Cam, but to travel to the hosting city and finding a like a hotel or even Airbnb to stay, and then on top of that you have food and beverages that you have to take into consideration. It's just become just mind-boggling how expensive it is, and unfortunately it's not going to slow down anytime soon, thanks capitalism, I guess. But I think the Vegas is going to be, probably given their reputation and nightlife and gambling and all, I think you're going to hear some horror stories about how the fans were either duped or left out or had to pay an expensive amount of money to watch the game, and then only to see it from like a nosebleed section or stuff like that. And you have to kind of think long and hard, just when is it kind of enough, when enough is enough, and just how much do you think that the consumers and the fans and their allegiance are going to be tested moving forward, Ken.
Yeah, I was looking today, just for the heck of it, to see what the ticket packages were, and they start around $6,000, above $6,000. Of course, if to get a good seat, you're gonna have to pay something like 50,000. So
Right.
I don't know who can pay that. Obviously, as you mentioned, tech bros, but you can also it's like the 1% can only the 1% can go. So the average fan, unless they get something through the team, individual teams, or they just get a free ticket from the commissioner Goodell. The average fan isn't going to be going to that game. Um, and that's unfortunate to see because Super Bowl one, Al Michaels mentioned that he was able to buy a ticket for Super Bowl one for $20. Of course, that's in 1966 dollars, $7, but still, $20 is still. I would love to see a ticket for $20, Stephen. Just, I don't care where it would be at Allegiant Stadium, but that's not going to be happening. Um, wherever it's going to be now, it's going to be for the beautiful people and for celebrities to be there. So that's the way it is. That's the way it is in life, unfortunately. And it's just to the point where it's going to be the luckier people that are going to be able to say,
Unfortunately, yeah. I'm pulling up in an article while we were discussing. San Francisco's Christian McCafferty's mom said that they can't afford stupidly expensive Super Bowl suites. Think about that. Your son is a superstar running back on a San Francisco 49ers team that is playing Super Bowl, and your mom can't afford an expensive Super Bowl suite. And ironically, McCafferty's girlfriend. Uh-oh.
Yep, I hear you.
McCafferty's girlfriend was the one who bought the ticket for this one. So it's kind of ridiculous that a family of a player can't watch their son play because the suites or even the ticket perhaps were just outrageously expensive, Ken.
Yeah. Well, the players do get tickets. They are through the NFL. They are able to get some of their family in, but I don't know how many tickets are allowed per player. Maybe it's two, maybe it's four. I'm not sure, but I get where you're coming from. If they wanted to sit in their own private box, I'm sure that box is somewhere like maybe six figures, Stephen, and maybe that's a conservative estimate. I know. I was in Montreal this past weekend. I took a tour of the Bell Center, and they were talking about some of those suites, those luxury suites that are around the stadium and then around the Arena Bowl. They were talking about some of those seats about $1 million, Stephen. So, I mean, how do you get to who are the people that are going to be paying $1 million for a seat or a luxury box to be sitting in to watch the Canadians? So if you think that's expensive, I'm sure the NFL is also getting their amount of money for the Super Bowl as well, and they're making it quite easily, and it is what it is. It's unfortunately you and I can't afford to go, but it's the only way you can see it for free is if you're covering it or you're part of a network or somebody who's going to be paying $1 million for the suite.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that the player's family almost missed out on this opportunity. This is, of
Right.
course, McCafferty's very first Super Bowl appearance. So I think the NFL has, maybe a nightmarish issue moving forward. I'm sure, they have to figure out a way to treat the family of the players or even coaching staff needs to be taken care of. But, an average fans, they're probably going to be more than likely gets priced out. So certainly that's something that the, they have to address or figure out moving forward because of an embarrassing situation like this. All right, Ken, let's kind of move on to the other headlines on Super Bowl. But obviously, the CBS is broadcasting this year's game, and um, the team of Tony Romo and Jim Nance is calling the game and this week, and certainly we've had a lot of stories that came out about Jim Nance and Tony Romo's chemistry that have been put into question and also have been ridiculed on multiple outlets, especially Andrew Marchand of formerly of was it the New York Post? Now he works for the
Not Athletic.
Athletic now. So this is going to be a very, very excuse me, interesting test for CBS because they have, of course, both Nance and Romo have done Super Bowls in the past, but I think it's kind of interesting that both Nance and Romo are kind of put in a I wouldn't want to say no-win situation, but based on the interactions that we kind of witnessed throughout this year on CBS, it's quite telling that there's something that's kind of off kiltered. Maybe Romo is just kind of keep going off the script and trying to be so hard to be like a comedian, while Jim is trying to tame Tony Romo's antics. It is. I've noticed that. I think a lot of people have noticed that as well. I think this is a huge moment for CBS Sports and their broadcasting team.
Well, I'll say this much. I think Tony Romo is Tony Romo. I think he was coached or told over the past season to. He did a lot of things that in the season previous that got him a lot of criticism. Not seem to be prepared. Coming out with some very questionable comments. I mean, comments not controversial, but some of the things that he said that made you scratch your head in regards to situational football. And compared to Greg Olsen, he doesn't seem to have that down. But I don't think there's much pressure on them per se. I will be writing the review. I do an annual review of the Super Bowl production every year. Generally, the announcing teams are do pretty well. The last time that Tony Romo did the Super Bowl, it was in the midst of he was known as Romo Damas, and he was predicting plays and doing it very well. He was in the middle of that honeymoon period, so I gave him a very good grade for his for what he did. The last time I did it was, I think, 4 years ago. So he's going to be doing it again this season. Now there is a little bit of Romo fatigue. I would say Jim Nance is Jim Nance. He's always going to be calling the games extremely well. He's a professional. He always rises to the occasion. Whether Tony Romo can get the job done, we'll see. I think, though, what happened, especially with his predecessor, Phil Simms, if you remember, in Super Bowl 47, he began to get criticized. And in that Super Bowl, that was the one in which Baltimore and San Francisco played, and the lights went out in the New Orleans Superdome. In that game, Phil Simms had a very bad game, and that was the beginning of the end for Phil Simms. And then the following Super Bowl and I think not 50, but shortly afterwards, Tony Romo joined in, and now he has that huge contract, that $15 million contract. That's very well known, Stephen, for his analysis. I think, as I mentioned, he came off hot, and Romo did a great job with predicting plays and knowing where they would be going. And ESPN tried to get Romo, and that caused CBS to shell out the cash to keep him. But right now, I don't think CBS necessarily has buyer's remorse. But I also do know that they did have to talk with Romo in the last couple of seasons in regards to his analysis. They wanted to get better, and we'll see how he does in Super Bowl 58, Stephen. Because if it doesn't come out as well, again, it's in the game that's that's going to have the highest audience of the year. And if you make some questionable analysis like Phil Simms did in Super Bowl 47, it's tough to get that the crowd back. So if he does a good job, I don't think anybody remembers that. No one ever remembers if you did a great job. But if you do a bad job, everyone knows, and it's all magnified. So it's something I'll be watching for this Sunday, Stephen.
Yeah, this is going to be an excellent Super Bowl matchup, at least on paper. San Francisco, Kansas City. You have stars on both sides of the ball, and presumably Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce's girlfriend, is also expected to arrive just in time to watch Super Bowl after flying in from Tokyo for about a 12-hour flight from Tokyo to Las Vegas. So there are so many interesting storylines, and there's no question Tony Romo has to deliver, and Jim Nance, and I'm sure there are production meetings going on. They hear about it, maybe not through the grapevine, but they hear from probably the CBS Sports executives, production meetings, and so forth. So I'm very curious to see how these two will do their job with all the noises surrounding their tandem, as well as the storylines involving this upcoming Super Bowl. All right, Ken, now let's talk about Roger Goodell's news conference that took place a few hours ago. What are your main takeaways from Goodell's press conference earlier tonight?
Well, there's one thing that, of course, that I mentioned earlier that you saw a little bit earlier, and there's this comment. This was interestingly enough, Stephen. This was, as I mentioned at the top, was at 6 o'clock Eastern time, before Super Bowl opening night and before the media scrum of all the reporters asking both the Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers their questions. This used to be a press conference that used to be on a Friday, the couple days before the Super Bowl. Recently moved back to Wednesday. And of course, if you remember last year, Jim Trotter asked questions at that time of the NFL Network, asked the commissioner about diversity in the NFL, and kept pressing the commissioner on it. And
Right.
Soon afterwards, Trotter lost his job. The NFL had said that it was basically a layoff, but Trotter said it was racially biased, and he is suing the NFL. The NFL is trying to get that lawsuit tossed. But he again was asked about diversity today. We'll get into that in just a second, Stephen. But one of the bigger questions that he was asked was this question in regards to streaming on Peacock. And he was asked in regards to about streaming and about the the situation about people about having multiple games, playoff games on streaming, and this is what came about. And let's hope it comes about, and let's hope it comes about, because I wanted to get this up. I see we're having technical difficulties. Okay, never mind.
Okay, hold on. Let me try and help out there from there. Roger Goodell.
Okay. I'll remove mine.
Okay, no problem. I'm gonna play this one for you.
Okay.
Bear with me. I know you're not in Canada anymore. Maybe we would have checked it up or something because of the technical issues. All right, here we go.
Yep, go ahead and play that.
A lot of fans were upset about that, a playoff game being behind a paywall. I'm sure that pushback was not surprising to the league. And I wonder if that's the price of progress and innovation for the NFL, and what the plans are, if there's an expanded plan for streaming games next season.
Well, Sam, I think you first have to back up a little bit and sort of understand where the media landscape is going. It's changing faster and deeper. Consumers are moving off of paid television services and going into digital streaming services and platforms. And we as the NFL have to be able to reach our fans there. One of the most positive things about the Peacock game was not just the fact that it outdrew the broadcast audience a year earlier in the same window. So people went there, experienced it. It worked technically in an incredible way. And our partners at Peacock and NBC, we give a lot of credit to them for that. But it also reduced our average age of the audience by almost 10 years. So youth audiences are going to those platforms and those apps, and we have to make sure our content is there. We still have over 90% of our games on free television. No other league, no other sports comes close to that. When we were in the 80s, when we moved to ESPN and we went behind to pay TV, there was the same outcry. But what we did is we created a platform that fans can engage with, have access to, that is actually beneficial to the consumers because that's where they are. We have to fish where the fish are, and we have a lot of consumers that are on those platforms, and Peacock Games showed that. Amazon showed that over the last 2 years. Their ratings were up 24% this year. We saw it with YouTube and our Sunday ticket package, double the number of subscribers. So our fans are on these platforms. Our fans want to access them. The technology is extraordinary. You can do things on some of these platforms that you can't do on a linear platform. So for us, it's part of the future. I don't know where it goes from here, but we're going to continue to reach our fans where they are with the best possible production, the best possible technology.
Just to follow up on Sam, I get the question often lately, could we see a streaming Super Bowl in the future?
Well, certainly not in my time. I still believe, and even on some of the pay services, listen, one of the secrets of our success is we are really committed to broadcast television. As I said, 90% of our games are on broadcast and free over-the-air television. I think it's the reason why you will see over 200 million people watch this game here in the United States, because it's on broadcast television and the broadest possible platform. And our credit to CBS, they've built a great platform for us. But there's also a digital stream of Paramount Plus. And we want to support that because there are some fans that are watching on Paramount Plus a lot. So I think it's, again, we'll see Super Bowl continue to be on the broadest platform. I think we'll continue to see the NFL on the broadest possible platform. 23 million people watched that wild card game.
I'm interested in.
So that was Sam Farmer of Los Angeles Times, who asked that question. And Sam is a longtime veteran and a respected NFL writer who, thankfully, looks like survived the recent layoffs at the Los Angeles Times. There, asking that question. Yep. And Ken, you and I had Ben Axelrod from your awful announcing writer a couple of weeks ago, and we had this discussion. And I wrote that event on my timeline on Twitter that pretty soon we're going to be paying streaming just to watch a Super Bowl. Now, Goodell there emphatically said not on my time watch, but I'm not holding my breath, and I think it is going to happen. Sooner rather than later, because again, Goodell said that there's people watching on these platforms, and when you have people watching on these platforms, there's money to be made.
Yeah,
and that's what motivates people. Money motivates it.
I'll say this: until streaming can prove it can get 115 million people averaging and can handle that, I don't think you're going to see. I think we will see a streaming Super Bowl. I don't think it's going to be happening under Roger Goodell's watch. Until we get to see an audience that can manage 115 million. This is what we had in the last Super Bowl, Stephen. Until we get that, I don't think we're going to see a streaming Super Bowl, at least for the next 5 to 10 years. We did see a 23 million average for the wild card game on Peacock. We will probably see something like that again if it happens again next season. I think it will, but we need to see that it could handle somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 million. Until we get that, I don't think we're going to see a Super Bowl, because advertisers want a mass audience. They know they get that big audience. So until we get that, Stephen, until they get the show, they can handle that type of audience and that type of and not have it lag. I don't think we're going to be seeing, at least in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yes, and I do believe it will happen. Under his watch, whether he wants to say it will never happen under his watch, because the networks will, have to, compete against the one streaming platform versus the other, and then the best way to, maintain customers, or at least the subscribers, is to add more content. Netflix, Hulu, Tubi. There's so many. Oh, you know what? Paramount Plus, HBO Max. There's so many platforms right now, and I do believe that at some point within the next couple of years, there could be a massive, mergers amongst the others. Because I don't know how many consumers can afford to pay like 3 or 4 different streaming subscriptions. It's just getting out of control, unfortunately.
Right. Well,
so
that's
I think there's going to be some sort of a consolidation amongst a couple of, even the big ones. Maybe HBO merging with Paramount or something like that to create one massive entertainment platform, given the amount of the movies and original shows that they play, well. And then they've also forayed into the sports broadcasting, CBS and Paramount, of course. You can see the NFL games now, and then you have Peacock doing the Buffalo Los Angeles Chargers game, as well as the opening playoff between the Dolphins and the Chiefs. That was a wildly panned by the fans and critics. And yet still so many people still watch that game. And I'm sure a lot of them just basically signed up and then canceled immediately after the game, just to being avoid charged. So, go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, according to one study that Peacock was able to retain a good portion of those people who signed up. So that's according to a study. I don't know who it was commissioned by, but they did say that Peacock did manage to keep a lot of those people who did sign up for the trial for the wild card game. So maybe that's good news for NBC and Peacock. One other thing that was announced by Roger Goodell was the fact that the NFL game in Brazil on opening weekend will be hosted by the Philadelphia Eagles. We don't know the opponent yet, but there will be a Friday night. So that will be the Thursday night opening season game, which will be in the city of the Super Bowl champion. And then the Philadelphia Eagles will host a game on Friday. Then the opening day will be, of course, the Sunday, a full slate of games, and then the Monday night game. So the NFL continuing to expand its realm, they will have a Thursday night, a Friday night, Sunday game, Sunday night game, and a Monday night game on opening weekend. And it just goes to show, Stephen, that the NFL is just that big 800-pound gorilla in the room. They're going to have an NFL game. It'll be on against a bunch of baseball games that day. And I'm sure that the ratings, whether it's on streaming or whether it's on a network, whether it's on NBC, Amazon, or whatever network, or ESPN, whatever network that they have, I'm sure that there will be a big audience for that game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of been considered taboo to do a game on a Friday night, because of the Friday Night Lights, theme, and the high school football games. And then also maybe some college football games as well, in a lesser conferences. But, the NFL's global reach has no bounds. Now they have moved into South America right now. And, whether you like it or not, the globalization is not going to end any soon, as long as there's an opportunity to make money. And again, traveling to Brazil is not going to be an easy one. It's a long distance travel. So, traveling to South America, it takes almost more than a day just to travel from the United States.
It's about 8 hours. I've done that flight. I used to live in Brazil, Stephen. So it would take about, yeah, I used to live in Rio. So it would take from New York, it's about 8 hours. So from Philadelphia, it's a little bit shorter.
Okay. I was thinking of some other country from to South America. So my apologies there.
Yeah, but it's to Sao Paulo. They're going to be playing in Corinthians Arena. I know where that place is. My grandparents used to live in Sao Paulo as well. I think it's the NFL has a very big fan base down there. Philadelphia already. The Philadelphia Eagles fans are angry that a home game has been taken away from them. That's the way the Philadelphia fans are. But it's going to be interesting, Stephen. I think it's an interesting move by the NFL to bring the games there. Now that'll mean at least we know we have 5 sites for them next season. And if I can, let me see if I can get. I have the press release. I'm not gonna get it up, but I do have the press release from the National Football League, and so they will have. At least they have 5 hosts. At least we know we have 5 international games next season. Sao Paulo, we have 3 in London, Chicago, Minnesota, and Jacksonville will host those. And then the Carolina Panthers will host one in Alliance Arena, which is the home of Bayern Munich. So, you have it right. Thank you, Stephen. So, that's Sao Paulo, which will be on opening weekend. The Bears will be the designated team for the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. The NFC North division rivals of the Bears, the Vikings will also host a game. The Jaguars host a game automatically, so that's not considered part of the quote-unquote international series. It's always a home game for the Jacksonville Jaguars and Carolina. So, and I think they're trying to talk. I don't think they're going to do Mexico. They were talking about hoping to do Mexico next season. I think that's not going to happen because of issues with. I think
Azteca Stadium is going to go through massive renovation.
Yes, that's correct. So they're not going to do Mexico.
Super Bowl. I'm sorry, for the World Cup. Yes.
So they're not going to do Mexico, but that's why they decided to go with Brazil instead. But it's going to be interesting to see how those go. The international game, of course. Not only that, flag football is part of the Olympics, so the National Football League is trying to tap into this globalization of the game. And as you can see, Germany was very popular for their German games last season, and I'm sure it'll be sold out again in Munich, Stephen. And I'm sure that the Sao Paulo game, the Corinthians Stadium, and I know that's a stadium that holds a lot of fans there, Stephen. I think it's about 70,000 fans, if I'm not mistaken. Right. So it's going to be Brazil. They know how to party down there with a lot of samba and a lot of fun down there. So it's good. I kind of wish it was going to be in Rio because I used to live in Rio as well, but Maracanã Stadium is a place which is in very bad disrepair. So they decided to go with Sao Paulo instead. So we'll see how that goes. And we'll see what network carries that game because I'm sure the NFL, I'm sure maybe down the line, they're maybe think of a Friday night package down the line if they see how this game is. So we'll wait and see, Stephen. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Corinthians is one of the largest and most popular, soccer clubs in all of Brazil, along with FC São Paulo and Santos and Flamengo, among others. So, this is the first, venture into South America. Obviously, NFL Brazil, their Super Bowl is being watched in the Brazil or global, Brazil networks, among others as well. So it makes sense to host a game in Brazil. Not sure about maybe hosting games in other South American areas, like Argentina. That's more of a soccer country, more so than anything else. The Argentina's economy has been pretty bad for a long, long time. So it might be something that been taken into a more consideration. So right now, I think the South America venture is probably limited to Brazil. So I think it's a good place to maybe venture out and grow the game as well. I don't know if there's any other regions that might be that they're thinking of. Asian countries are probably very, very difficult because the time differences, maybe lack of suitable stadiums in that area. Although I do know that the Tokyo Dome, where Taylor Swift will be playing this upcoming weekend, on Tuesday, Monday morning in Japan time, in the same Tokyo Dome, they're going to be doing a public viewing of Super Bowl this year, from what I read. So, I know that the NFL has a, like a branch down there in Japan as well. So it'll be very, very interesting to see what kind of response, they're going to get from the, how many people actually show up to watch the public viewing. I'm assuming a lot of, American expats will be there in person to watch the game. But I think it's an interesting concept, and hopefully, it's going to be. I'll be very, very curious to see how much of an interest and there is going to be down in Japan.
Yeah, they also had if I remember correctly, Stephen, in the 1990s, they had a couple of preseason games in the Tokyo Dome.
That is true. Yes, I remember those games.
And also, there was talk about having before something happened. The NBC and the NFL were talking about perhaps having a game in China before the 2008 Olympics, but there were some issues with the BirdNet Stadium, so that was scrapped. But they also have been talking about Australia, because Australia is also a place where the NFL is quite popular. They run it there on the 7 network, and the Super Bowl will be run on that live. So there's a couple of places that they're talking, especially in the Pacific Division, but that's probably not going to be happening maybe in the next 3 or 4 years, but maybe down the line. One thing we've been mentioning a lot about football, but let's talk about the other football, Stephen.
Hold on a second. Let's discuss our Super Bowl predictions, Ken.
Okay, go ahead. Let's do that.
All right. We'll get to the score in a minute, but let's do a couple of predictions in terms of the players or the game itself.
Okay.
Number one, I'm going to predict that Travis Kelce will probably score 2 touchdowns in this game.
Okay.
I think he is super motivated right now. It's kind of like night and day with the Chiefs, considering how bad they look in the regular season and how they were able to turn it on in the 2 road playoff games after their home opener against the Miami Dolphins in that -30 wind chill. And they've really looked good, but it's their defense that has certainly carried them a lot more so than the offense this year. But I think knowing that his girlfriend will be there, despite the long travel from Japan, I do believe that Kelce will score at least 2 touchdowns for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay, that's a good one. I'll give you a prediction here that the Kansas City defense will force Brock Purdy to throw 3 interceptions. Steve Spagnuolo is a great defensive coordinator, and we've seen him do a great job, especially against Miami, a high-octane offense. But, of course, that they weren't playing very well going into the game. They did a great job against Buffalo. And they also did a fantastic job in the AFC Championship game in Baltimore in Lamar Jackson. So I have a feeling, and while this Christian McCaffrey is a guy who can run loose in any type of defense, he does a great job. And George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk are great offensive weapons. they can only do so much if the quarterback is on his game. Now,
Yeah.
Brock Purdy has shown that he can play, and he had two excellent comebacks in the NFC against Green Bay and against Detroit. I will say, however, he has not seen a defense like a Steve Spagnuolo defense, and I have a feeling it will confuse him. So I'm going to say the Kansas City defense he will be confused. Lamar Jackson showed a lot of confusion. I had not seen that against any team that he had the confusion that he had shown against any team this season. So I'm going to say that Spagnuolo is going to have some type of plan, and Brock Purdy will throw 3 interceptions during the game against Kansas City.
That's a good one. Steve Spagnuolo certainly deserves a lot of credit for their defensive turnaround. It's usually the offense that has carried the Chiefs in their Super Bowl runs, but now it looks like as though the defense has to step it up one more time in order to give Mahomes an opportunity to win his 3rd Super Bowl in 4 years. Mm-hmm. Okay, the score-wise, I had this discussion with Rashad Shakiri over the weekend, and I'm going to stick with the same prediction. I think this is going to be a still very close game, Ken, and in the end, I like the Kansas City Chiefs to defend their title, 31-27 Chiefs, in my opinion. And I'm going to pick the MVP. And if Travis Kelce does score 2 touchdowns, I think he will be the MVP. And those who hate, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce will have a massive meltdown moving forward.
I will say that Roger Goodell in his news conference did say how much that he and his whole family are Swifties. Also, in a mention, he thought that it was great to have all these new fans and have these the Swifties come in, and he welcomes them. So, and he also criticized the fact that conspiracy theorists are trying to say that the NFL is rigging games. He said that he could not even try to script things like that. So, and I have to agree with him, with him there. As much as we criticize Roger Goodell, I do have to agree with that there's no quid pro quo. There is no way that he could script or rig games for the Kansas City Chiefs, or to even have a great season that having the Swifties come in as fans of the NFL. I am going to say that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to do a little bit of what Tampa Bay did to them. If you remember, the second time the Kansas City Chiefs went into the Super Bowl, coming off their win against San Francisco the year before, Tampa Bay ran roughshod over the Kansas City. Their defense did something to Patrick Mahomes that we have not seen since, and they made him look really, really bad. I'm going to say that, again, Spagnuolo is going to do the same thing to Brock Purdy there. He's a young quarterback. He's going to have to, as I mentioned, I think I predict that he will throw 3 interceptions, and I'm going to say that the Kansas City Chiefs will win this going away. They will win the Super Bowl by a score of 27-3. And I think that and I agree with you. I'll say Travis Kelce will be the MVP of the Super Bowl. I say he will catch 3 touchdowns, not 2. I say he will catch 3 touchdowns, and and even though it'll be 27-3, the Swifties are going to bring in, and I'll say it'll be a record audience of 118.3 million. She will not. Taylor will not be in the Super Bowl halftime show, but I think that Usher is going to do a great job at halftime.
Mm-hmm. Well, I look forward to the final game of this NFL season, and hopefully the game itself will deliver both on and off the field. Now we can move on to another football. Ken, sorry for the early the interruption there, but yesterday, while there was no NFL game, FIFA took advantage of that empty schedule and announced the 2026 the World Cup sites being announced. This is for both U.S., Canada, and Mexico. That was announced yesterday. And the shocking development in all of this was that the New York City of New York have
Yeah.
gotten the finals in the World Cup in 2026, and I know a lot of people were not happy with the the decision. One thing that people need to understand about this World Cup is that all stadiums, every stadium, U.S., Mexico, and Canada, they're going to have to play in the grass field by FIFA rule.
Right.
Okay, a lot of the stadiums in America, as we know, and you look at the venues of the World Cup, are all football NFL stadiums. As you know, New York, Dallas, Kansas City, Houston, Atlanta, LA, Philadelphia, Miami, Boston, San Francisco, Seattle. Those are all NFL stadiums, and a lot of them have maybe an AstroTurf or not a real grass. So it's something that very, very curious that obviously a lot of the cities have certainly complied and agreed to that ruling. Now we know that the city of New York, that MetLife Stadium doesn't have a real stellar reputation among the NFL players because of that turf and how much injuries that they have caused and suffered in the past. But rest assured, all the stadiums will be playing on grass surface. The dimensions and the thickness of it and all that kind of stuff. That's something that the stadiums and its operators will have to figure it out. I'm sure they will figure it out eventually, even if it looks a little bit odd compared to, say, watching soccer over there in Europe. But it will be all grass. The stadium names will be referred to by the city name. So AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Dallas, Texas, outside of Dallas, will now be referred to as Dallas Stadium. Ken, your neck of the woods, Gillette Stadium, where Patriots play, I think it's referred to as Boston Stadium.
Yeah,
so that's something. Yes, that's going to be response.
Yeah, they're not FIFA sponsors, so they won't be known as their corporate names. They won't be using the naming rights that are assigned to the stadium. I will say that if you remember, back in last month, there was talk that AT&T Stadium in Arlington would be the site of the finals, and in fact, an English newspaper reported that, and it looked like it was going to happen, but apparently FIFA, after looking at both Los Angeles SoFi Stadium and looking at Dallas, and then also MetLife Stadium, decided to go with MetLife Stadium. I don't know what their criteria was, but they will be getting the final. I believe the semifinal, Stephen, is going to be Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, and I think will it be that Arlington will also get that semifinal as well?
That is correct. Yes.
I was traveling on the road yesterday, so I didn't get all of it, but I know that Gillette Stadium, I believe, will also get they'll get some group games. They'll get a round of 16 game, and they'll also get a final game.
Quarterfinals, yes, you'll get that quarterfinal games as well. Yes,
right. So if you remember when the World Cup was back in the United States back in 1994, they had the similar situation with the artificial turf. Giant Stadium was a site. Also, Foxborough Stadium at the time was a site. They all had artificial turf. It was required they had to put grass stadiums, grass fields in. And eventually what happened was especially with Foxborough Stadium, they decided to take out the turf and eventually the grass in. So they became a grass field. I have a feeling, I don't think that you're going to see that with any of the fields that are going to be going from field turf to grass stadium for the World Cup that year. Those grass fields are going to be removed and the field turf replaced back in the hybrid of the grass and the artificial turf. But I think it's a good move. It's required by FIFA. I think that Gillette Stadium, that was a surprise. If you remember when they announced the cities back last year, Stephen, it was not known that people were thinking that Foxborough wasn't going to be a host site, but somehow Robert Kraft managed to finagle his way in Philadelphia, I believe, is a grass field, so I think that's no problem with Lincoln Financial Field. Miami Gardens is a grass field too. If you saw Hard Knocks, they actually have a turf farm that grows the turf for that field, so that's not an issue for that either. But it's going to. I think Atlanta is also a site. Is Atlanta also not a site, Stephen, as well for this World Cup? I think
Yeah,
Mercedes-Benz.
the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, they are the host of city as well. They will get probably about 5 games. Not a Yeah, they have a round of 16 as one of their highest remaining matches, but that's pretty much it. That's
Yeah,
pretty much it. Yeah.
I think Arlington is the site that gets the most games. I think they get 9 games, if I'm not mistaken, Stephen.
Yes,
They'll
they got 9 games, but they didn't get the big one, unfortunately. So
Yeah, so they'll get the group games. They will get the round of 16 game. They'll get a quarterfinal game, and they'll also get a semifinal game. The third place match is going to be in Miami. I think that's going to be quite interesting, Stephen. But the fact that MetLife Stadium will get the final, I think it's going to be big for New York because that is a big soccer stadium, of course, a big soccer market. They have the Red Bulls there. They also they have 2 MLS teams in the market. They also have the NWSL there too as well. So I think it's only a good thing that they have the final in New York and also in the United States' biggest market. So I think as much as it sounded strange at first, I think New York will welcome it, and I think it bodes well that MetLife Stadium will get the final.
yeah, as somebody who used to live in Dallas, I really thought it would be cool to host it in Dallas. The stadium size, it's great.
Yes.
It's got a lot of strong Latin population. Obviously, a lot of the Latino people watch and play soccer as well. Obviously, New York's reputation and being a media capital of the world probably won them over, pushed them to the top. So, it's not a sad, nothing to be ashamed about for the city of Dallas to be able to host the 9 games, which is most of any host cities. But certainly the traffic and the lack of public transportation in this country, with or without sporting events, is going to be a massive problem. And in order to host a successful event of this magnitude, I think every city, every local and state level government, they have to be very, very mindful about the visitors from overseas coming into your city, and make sure that they have ample ways to get around the stadiums and the cities to make this a successful event. So I know the city of New Jersey is working on extending the train line all the way to the East Rutherford, where the MetLife Stadium is there, and probably will likely be open very, very close to the actual match month of 2026. So it'll be very, very interesting to see how each cities, and also on the state level, they will handle the pressure of hosting these large events. You have to deal with traffic. You also have to deal with the policing and terrorist attacks and all that other stuff as well. So, with the Copa America happening this year in June of this year, it certainly won't be as many games compared to World Cup, but I think this is going to be a very interesting litmus test for how each cities handle pressure and crowd control, and how that they can use that as a feedback for an even bigger event in 2 years, Ken.
Right, and I think for at least in my home area, Stephen, Foxborough, they had a very nice practice run with the Army Navy game here.
Yeah.
Being equidistant from Providence and from Boston, they have 2 areas there that can handle any particular hotel traffic. And
Yeah.
also the airport traffic. They have Providence Airport, Green Airport, which can handle international flights, and the same for Logan Airport. Although that getting in and out of Green Airport, I don't know if you've ever gotten that in and out of Logan Airport, Stephen. That is a nightmare and a half. You could be there at 2 or 3 in the morning and still have trouble getting out of that airport. But Green Airport is a little bit better. Their traffic is easier to get in and out of. Providence can handle the hotels. They have a lot of conventions there. So they would welcome the fact that to have 6 games at Gillette Stadium and be a host there. So I think the people of Providence would love, and this is a very big soccer area too, Stephen. There is there is a good soccer audience here, especially in Providence, too, in Rhode Island for soccer. There's going to be a new USL team coming in here, Rhode Island FC coming in this year. So they're going to be playing the home games in Bryant University at first, and then they're going to have a new stadium in Pawtucket. So it's the people of Rhode Island, and I think the people of Boston will welcome having the World Cup much more than the 1994 when it was just more of a curiosity. Soccer is much of a more of popular here in this area. So we'll wait and see how that happens in a couple of years, Stephen. So going to be interesting to see what happens. It took a FIFA a very long time for them to announce, first of all, the home sites, and now the host cities, and then how many games. It took very long. It just took ridiculously a long amount of time. But finally, we have them, and now we can look forward to seeing and eventually see what happens with the World Cup draw. That'll be happening sometime next year. So we'll look for that too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge year for the soccer in this country, and the U.S. men's national team has been kind of sliding a little bit, in the second go around with Greg Berhalter as the national team.
A lot this year. We're going to be discussing that a lot, especially coming up. But
Yes. Lack of quality opponents in the exhibition matches, international matches here in the U.S. or overseas. Now it's basically, it's up to the U.S. Soccer Federation and those who are involved in the U.S. soccer in some capacity to take this opportunity. They have to make sure that the soccer in this country can continue to grow and do not let, anything stagnant get in their way. They really, really have to parlay this, exposure and popularity, and make soccer a mainstay in this country. But the lack of leadership and some of the decision makings by the soccer federation executives, the past and the future, makes it a little bit difficult for me to really, really be optimistic about what is happening with the U.S. soccer's landscape overall right now. But hopefully, they realize the opportunity. They need to maybe improve the game, open up a little bit. Surely, MLS has to, be able to there to capitalize those opportunities to, show the fans, what the domestic league is all about. They also have to probably loosen up a little bit of restrictions when it comes to roster decisions for the MLS teams. I think that the quality of the product has to improve significantly. It's got a lot of attention, certainly with the addition of Lionel Messi with Inter Miami. But Messi can't play forever, and the fact that the fans are being priced out of games against Messi, and the games in which Messi probably won't play, all of them, not just because of the ages, but the fact that he probably won't play on AstroTurf stadiums because of concern with his health and everything, given his advanced age now. So there are a lot of opportunities for the U.S. soccer to improve and get better. It's literally up to them. With the Copa America coming, U.S. soccer has a chance to make a deep run, but a lot has to go right. And more importantly, the people who are involved with the U.S. soccer, whether it's the chairman, Cindy Pardo-Cone, all the way down to the national team manager, Greg Berhalter. They all have to ask the same question and work towards, expanding and making this beautiful game mainstay in this country. And in order to do so, they have to get the results on the field this year. So I'm going to be paying extra attention, and hopefully we'll have more soccer-related guests to talk about the state of the game and what kind of impact the 2026 World Cup will have on this country. Mm-hmm. Well, Ken, I appreciate your time. We got a lot to cover, and we look forward to the Super Bowl this Sunday. We'll probably talk about the Super Bowl game, our predictions, and also the commercials, et cetera, et cetera. So we look forward to having you, audience, once again next week on our live stream. Please make sure to follow both of us on Twitter, X, and also on our YouTube channels, which we will be uploading this episode once it is officially over. Ken, thanks for your time, and I look forward to having you on next week to talk about the Super Bowl 58.
Yes, we look forward to seeing it, and don't forget, Stephen. Also, we'll have various lives. Keep tuned to your various channels so you follow us, because Stephen always has good guests when we're not together, talking about the Bears or talking about whatever. So make sure you keep following us. And again, we'll be on. We'll be on next Monday. I can pretty much assure you we'll be on again next Monday night to talk about the Super Bowl and to talk about anything else that comes about in the world of sports. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next week. Have a good night, everyone.